Okay. Om Eknana Taminandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitamyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we're continuing our discussion of Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 5. The chapter begins with Arjuna asking a question because Krishna up to this point has spoken about the path of renunciation and the path of engagement in the world sort of equally. So Arjuna wants to know, is there one better than the other, or one that Krishna prefers or esteems more than the other? So he asks that, which path do you consider to be better? Karma sannyas means disengagement from the world. That can be either by joining a monastery or going to the forest. It is not by moping in your room because of depression or something. But due to a certain qualification, one leaves the world and joins a monastery or goes to the forest. Or is it by karma yoga, which involves engagement in the world? Which one do you consider to be better? Krishna says that actually both paths should be considered to be one. The reason they're considered to be one is because both paths have the same objective, namely self-realization and liberation. So for that reason, they should be considered as one. But of the two, I favor karma yoga, or I esteem karma yoga. He says, I say that karma yoga is better. He mentions that the karma yogi, or the person engaged in the world, is a person who is also enlightened. He refers to such a person as a nitya sannyasi, which means he is always a sannyas. So although engaged with the world, he is detached from it. Just like our devotees, we also like this principle of being engaged in the world, but detached. But our detachment is highly theoretical. We talk about this yukta vairagya. We have a principle. Yukta vairagya means a renunciation by engagement. So we use everything in Krishna service. That's the theory. It's very much a theory because many may not yet have that qualification. So you'll find devotees going to like Best Buy and like, yeah, we'll use everything in Krishna service. No, they don't even say that. They say everything can be used in Krishna service. And we say, yeah, we know that it can be used in Krishna service. The question is, what are you using it for? So a computer can be used in Krishna service. A phone can be used in Krishna service. But many of us don't yet to have that qualification. The first qualification mentioned for a person who can do this, anansaktasha vishayan, which means such a person is completely detached from the sense objects. Then you can use them in Krishna service. Otherwise, you will be used by them. And I think in our lived experience, most of us find ourselves being used by objects more than we're using them. We're being used and exploited by our cell phones, by our computers, by our money, by our partners, and so on. We're not actually engaging them in Krishna service. So the karma yogi person is a pretty qualified person. That although he's engaged with the world of sense objects, he is nitya sannyasi. He is always detached. And he is near dvandva. He is beyond duality. Krishna mentioned he does not hate or he does not desire or rejoice in anything in the worldly sense, which is pretty, that's, as I mentioned in my previous discussion, that's pretty up there. Someone just gives us some not nice words, we like to stir for half the day. If they make some public statement about you on Facebook or something, you spend half the day thinking how you should respond, or you'll like write the response out and you're like, let me edit this, delete that sentence, go back. 1-2 hours pass by like this, and your life is disturbed, preoccupied in this way. So this karma yogi is a very advanced person. So Krishna, in summary, says that he esteems karma yoga because it is easier than karma sannyas. It is easier because it allows for the use of the senses. It is safer because if some defect comes up in the application of karma yoga, you just continue with the same karma yoga. Whereas jnana, if some defect comes on, not only is it stain on your character, societally speaking, but also you have to take shelter of karma yoga to reinstate yourself. So karma yoga is safer, and it also is enlightened. It also has knowledge within it. For these three reasons, karma yoga is esteemed. I think also there's an extra point there in verse 5-7 that such a person is liked by everyone. or Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. He is considered as the very life or soul of everyone, because he exists in the world for the benefit of the world without trying to exploit it. Such a person is very nice. You would appreciate such a person. Versus the type of people we're accustomed to dealing with in New York City or in life in general. And the sannyasi is also having such character, but you don't engage with him so much. Of course, in our society, we get a little bit more engagement with renunciates, but traditionally that would not happen. And even with the ladies, they don't get, sometimes I hear the ladies complain like, oh, we can't embrace the sannyasis, we can't get close to them. True. So the sannyasis were not traditionally as appreciated. They also have similar character, but they are renounced, so you don't see them. So in this way, the karma yogi is exalted in so many ways. So after exalting him, Krishna begins to discuss the knowledge of such a person in verses 8 through 15. So we started that discussion last class, and we'll try to complete it this class. So Krishna refers to such a person as tattvavid. He is a knower of the reality of the tattva. And really, this chapter in a lot of ways mimics chapter 3, where Krishna first talked about karma yoga. In this chapter, he's speaking about karma yoga and enlightenment. In chapter 3, he speaks more about karma yoga in terms of getting enlightenment. Now the person is enlightened. So now this chapter is in a kind of an expansion of the karma yogi and enlightenment. So the chapters kind of mimic each other in a lot of ways. So you'll find in verses 8 through 9, he uses the word tattvavid to describe this karma yogi. And it's the same word he used in chapter 3, verse 28, and describing the same point, the knowledge of such an enlightened person. So the tattvavid basically understands that there's a difference between himself and the world. That is the basic point. And the way that I tried to articulate this to make it interesting is that the world represents a story of another, right? The story of Jai Jagannath, that is the central character. And the soul is kind of watching that story and getting all wrapped up in it in identification. So I'm into my story and you're into your story. It's like sometimes people get self-conscious if people are looking at me, this, that. I said, no, generally people thinking about only one person in life. The orbit is very much fixed. And I always joke about myself. Sometimes I try to stretch the orbit a little bit, like to include others. Okay, like. So we are all lost in the story of another. In a sense, the soul lives vicariously. It lives through the story of the body and mind. But the karma yogi knows that this body and mind really represents the story of another and is not his true self. So when acting in the world, he always acts with that awareness. And 328, Krishna says he basically sees the world as gunas interacting with the gunas. And here in 8-9, Krishna says the same thing. He sees his senses simply interacting with the sense objects, but he himself is different. So he's not really doing anything. He's not doing anything because he is existing apart from the body and mind. So he is doing something and observing that and identifying with it, but he is not doing anything in the the nitty-gritty of the actions itself, which are mostly taking place by material products. The body and mind is a part of the material energy, so it's a material energy that's really moving the entity in this world. And so he sees himself as completely different than that. So in verse number, that was 8-9. So in verse number 10, he's compared to a lotus flower. So just as the water never stains a lotus flower, so the karma yogi is also not stained by activities in this world, which he consigns to the material energy. Basically, this is part of the material energy. This has nothing to do with me. Very impressive. Someone calls you a bad name, that has nothing to do with me. Just like sometimes people say your car is ugly. Of course, people identify with their car, so they get upset. That is, of course, foolishness. But someone criticizes your car, you don't get bent out of shape about it because it is not you. So similarly, if someone criticizes you, why are you getting bent out of shape? Because you think I am this body. That's the only reason you can get. And of course, we like to qualify everything, but we have to be, balanced. I like this. We have many our qualifiers, but at the root of it is this anartha, this identification with the body. So the karma yogi, he just consigns everything to the material energy, or in a devotional sense, this is all God moving things around. And so he's not tainted by the activities in this world. To be tainted means to become preoccupied with them, right? To take them as the all important factors in life. It's like when you look at the social political landscape and people getting so bent out of shape over like gender and sexuality and this phobia, that phobia, all of these things are indications of their being tinctured or contaminated by material energy, getting all worked up over these things, making big articles and coming to the devotee communities asking, what are you doing about this situation, that situation? And when the devotees say nothing, and they become upset with us. Why are you not doing anything? Because we give our philosophy, that is not appealing. But actually, the enlightened person is like this. He's removed, constantly not to the material nature. So when he does act in this world, in verse 11, Krishna says he acts in this world for the purpose of purification. Atma Shuddhaye. And what is that purification? Purification from the ego that causes one to identify with matter. The ego is called the Hridaya Granthi also, which means the heart rope tying our sense of identity to the world. And so it's not so easy to get over that. You get over like one layer of false ego and you discover another one. And then you get over that layer and then there's another layer of false ego. I'm trying to think of a good example. I don't know why the image of Alice in Wonderland is coming up, but I really don't. Like, it's coming in my head. Anyway, yeah, maybe in this sense, you discover just how deep the rabbit hole goes, the rabbit hole of false ego. You find things, yeah, I'm finally over it. I'm finally over some stuff. You know, you like pat yourself in the back, you did. And then you discover a whole nother layer of false ego that you have to deal with. And you discover it very acutely when you live amongst other practitioners. When you live amongst those who are not spiritual, you feel very much above them, and that always feels nice. But when you're with other persons who are supposed to be spiritual and you live with them, you're kind of anarthas, your bad things are just right on display all the time. And you're clashing. Then you discover how many layers of false ego is there. So if I have to act in this world, Atma Shuddhaye, I act for the purpose of purification. For that reason, I'm acting. Otherwise, and then 512, Krishna summarized, otherwise, such a karma yogi engaged in such a way, he attains the constant peace, enlightenment. And the person who is not so enlightened, who acts because of desire, then he continues in the world of bondage, he suffers. So you act either in this way and go up. I think the word was Naishtikyam Shantim. He attains the steady peace. You a peaceful person? Anyone here peaceful? You a peaceful person? Peaceful person? You're a peaceful person? No peace? Anxious, full of anxiety. Hearts being like, getting busted up in this material. Isn't it? You're a peaceful person? What is that verse I like to say? Nasti buddhir ayuktasya, nacha yuktasya bhavana. Nacha bhavajata shanta, ashanta shakuta sukham. I always like to quote this verse. Nasti buddhi. That phrase sounds funny. Nasti buddhi. Nasti buddhi. Your buddhi is nasti. Buddhi means intelligence or the locus of knowledge. And na asti means not present. Nasti buddhi, ayuktasha, for one who is not connected to the reality, to God, who is not sense control, mind control, then there can be no question of meditation. And without meditation, there can be no question of peace. And ashantasha, for one who is not peaceful, kutasukam, where is the question of happiness? You are not even peaceful. How you will be happy? Just like sometimes people say, I am happy, but you are not even peaceful. I can disturb your happiness in one moment. Just like sometimes people are like, it's like a very nice day outside and everything's just working well. I'm so happy. I can disturb your happiness in one moment, like literally. How do I do that? You just give like a little slap. Then you say, now are you happy? You're not even peaceful. In order to be peaceful, you have to be beyond the world of duality, near Dvanda. Not only way you can be peaceful, otherwise no question of peace. And 1 minute you will say peaceful, and then 5 minutes later you will say you're not happy because of another situation, isn't it? So you do this karma yoga nicely, you get peace Otherwise, you suffer. Act out of desire, you suffer. And everyone has experience acting out of desire. And the result, isn't it? You've acted out of desire. What was the result? Suffering.
Yeah.
Huh? Hurt. Who here has acted out of desire? And what was the result? Tears. Contributions to the ocean of tears. That is this material world. Prahlad Maharaj makes a nice killer statement on this. Dukoshadam ta'api dukamata diyaham. He says that dukoshadam, people are suffering, dukkha, and they have a oshadam, means one remedy for the suffering. And he says that remedy is his self-suffering. I love that. Dukoshadam ta'api dukam. The remedy for suffering is its self-suffering. Just like sometimes when you're suffering, then the friend will give some suggestion. Let us go for a drink. That itself is also a bad suggestion, only adding to the suffering. Or they give some other foolish ideas coming. Atadiyaham, Prahlad Maharaj says, because you've not changed the bodily concept that causes you to experience the suffering. I did a little video this morning. I was kind of making this point that actually everyone's destiny is fixed. As long as your character is fixed in a particular way, your destiny is fixed. And just like if you are a person who are ungrateful person, then wherever you go, you'll find the same problem because you're ungrateful. So nothing will ever be good enough. So because of your bad character, your destiny is fixed. And it has nothing to do with the external environment, but because of your state of being at that time. So in that same way, our state of being has fixed our destiny. And our destiny is suffering. I often joke about this. There's so many psychic places here in New York. Even on Fifth Avenue, I was really shocked to see one on Fifth Avenue, like a real, like fancy one. I was like, I didn't even know people believed in this stuff anymore, but I guess they do. Fifth Avenue is like, they have it was in a like expensive area of Fifth Avenue, one big psychic shop. I was like, man, I could be making mad money, yo. I also become a psychic. Come in, sit. Also, I just have one question. Do you have any attachments? I'll say, oh, I have so many attachments. Okay, let me look at your destiny. Suffering. It is fixed because your mentality, your character will fix your experience. So now we're on verse 5, 13 through 15. So just a few verses here that continues the passage. Krishna continues, again, the discussion about the enlightenment of the Karma Yogi. So sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukhamvashi navadhari pure dehi naiva kurvana karyan. So sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukhamvashi. So this karma yogi, he is vashi. Vashi means he is self-control. Quite an accomplishment in this modern age. He is self-control and he renounces by the mind all activities. So that means Vashi, although he is engaged with the world of sense objects, he is doing so in a controlled manner, unlike ourselves, especially when we get into that, some attachment gets cut. Just a friend was telling me just today when, he broke up with another friend. He broke up with one of his girlfriends. He was telling me from years ago. And he said when he broke up, he just bought like a whole bunch of ice cream and beer. And he just sat and for the whole day was drinking beer and eating ice cream. So it gets out of control, right? It's not so easy when you're dealing with duality. Even when you're dealing with a nice thing, that also gets out of control, right? When you think you're in love, this is the one. I love seeing that. Just another friend, found a girlfriend recently, a friend from South Africa. And he was like, hashtag the one. It always cracks me up. I'm like, there is no such thing as the one. There'd be the one, the two, the three, the four. But sometimes when you fall in love with the one, that also gets out of hand, gets out of control. It's very hard. The world of sense objects is very, it captures whole self. So the Karma Yogi, he engaged in the world in a control way, and he renounces in the mind all activities. In the mind, he's renounced. Externally, he's engaged in a control matter, but sannyase manasa sarva karmani. In his mind, he renounces all activities. So aste sukham. Such a person is situated in happiness. Nava dwari pure devi. Such an embodied person is situated happy in the city of 9 gates. So the city of 9 gates, eyes, 2 gates. 2 gates, that's 4. 2 gates, nostrils, that's 6. And a gate, 7. And then 2 gates below the belt. It's like not a nice way to say that. Anyway, so 9 gates. Such a person situated happily in the city of 9 gates. This means such a person exists in a body with detachment. If you can exist in the body with detachment, then only you can be happy. Otherwise, there's no question of happiness. This nice short story, very short story. Once upon a time, there was a bird, and he was eating some meat. It was very nice. And then hawk. And then some other hawks, they didn't have any meat. So they decided to gang up on this one cat hawk and said, let's get his meat. So he was attached to the meat. So he started fighting for the meat. And then there was a fight, and they were going to kill him. Then he let go of the meat, and he was happy. Yeah. Another very nice story. It's from the Bhagavad-Gita. It's like literally 2-3 verses. The point of the story is that when one is attached, one suffers. And when it's detached, one is happy. It's a little counterintuitive because when you're existing in a position where you feel like you need something, like an object. I always use cheesecake as my representative object for enjoyment in this world. Cheesecake, because everyone likes cheesecake. Who doesn't like cheesecake?
Vegans.
Huh?
Vegans.
They got vegan cheesecake too. The vegans will not be denied anything.
I just posted the recipe on my Facebook.
Oh, the vegan cheesecake recipe. See, they will not be. They got vegan hot dogs and hamburgers. They're like, we will not be denied anything. So cheesecake is my representative of any form of sense gratification. You want some partnership, whatever it might be. Then you think that without it, I cannot be happy. Then you get it, and then you're not happy. So you're not happy in both cases. When you don't have your desire fulfilled, you're not happy. And when your desire fulfilled, you're also not happy. So there's only one solution to this. We have to develop detachment. So the karma yogi, he exists in the body with detachment. So he's said to exist happily in the city of 9 gates. Although engaged with the world of objects, his mental state is renounced. Even we may be disengaged from the world of sense objects, but our mental state is attached. So that is a difference. Karma yogi's mental state is renounced. Naiva kurvana karya. He does not do anything, nor does he cause anyone else to do anything. So he is not doing, nor is he causing others to do. Again, the reason for saying this is because the soul is actually ontologically different from the world of activity. So he is not doing, nor does he cause others to do. So the Gita wants to expand on this a little bit. So the next verse it says, Na katritvam na karmani lokasya srijati prabhu. I like this verse a lot, looking at it today. The Prabhu, the soul here is referred to as the Prabhu, as the master. And I mentioned this, I believe, in the last class, that we are intended to be the master of the body, the master of the senses, the master of the mind, the master of the intelligence, and yes, indeed, the master of the ego as well. You have the ability to choose what you want to identify with. You have the power. You're supposed to be the master, the sovereign of this body. But instead of being the sovereign of this body, you've kind of surrendered your rulership over to the body itself. And that's, of course, not working out very nicely for many of us. So we allow our senses to go towards things that are not healthy for us. And ultimately, we allow our egos to become preoccupied with things that don't bring happiness or upliftment. So we've lost our rulership. We've lost rulership over our life. We've lost it to the material energy. And a lot of the spiritual life is learning how to become the Prabhu, not in a puffed up sense. I'm the Prabhu, yo. I'm the master, because we refer to each other like that in our circles. Prabhuji, Prabhu, yo, Prabhu. So not in the proud sense of being the master, but becoming the ruler of your life, the ruler of your mind. Right? The mind just takes us for a little trip, boy. It's crazy. There's the one nice saying, the mind is like a bad neighborhood. It shouldn't go there alone. Oh, I love that, because it's like so true. Very dangerous. You're supposed to be the master of the mind, but the mind has mastered you. As soon as it gives even the slightest suggestion, we follow it. Isn't it the slightest suggestion? It's terrible, actually. No rulership. You sit here chanting japa, and some scent is coming out of the kitchen. It smells like cookies. And the mind's like, let's go check that out. It's like the slightest suggestion. We just get up, put the bead back down, go investigate. Or maybe we walk with the bead. No serious Java going open the kitchen door. With the slightest suggestion, gone. This is so terrible. And same with our ego, what we're choosing to identify with. Spiritual life in the beginning is very much an ego thing, because you don't feel yourself to be a spirit soul yet. You only know that by hearing Bhagavad-Gita, but you don't feel yourself as spirit soul. You feel yourself as a body. So in the beginning stages of spiritual practice, it's really an ego practice in the sense that you're choosing to identify with spiritual subject matter, having heard from a spiritual source, even though you don't yet feel yourself to be a spirit soul different from the body. So you can have that power also. What do I choose to identify with? But we lose our rulership to the material energy, but not the karma yogi. The karma yogi is described here as Prabhu. He is the Prabhu. He is the ruler of his body and mind, and his ego and his intelligence. So the Prabhu, he does not create, not karma, he does not create actions in this world, nor not katrita, nor does he cause others to act in this world. Not karma pala samyoga, nor does he create a samyoga. Samyoga means like a complete relationship with the fruits of activity. Right? We're all receiving different fruits of our activity. Sometimes the sweet fruits of whatever it is that you consider to be sweet, some enjoyment. And sometimes the bitter fruits that we experience quite a bit of. Samyoga, he does not create identity with that. The ego is wanting to run over there. Let's go identify. Let's go zoom in on this thing. And the Prabhu, he grabs it. Nah, we ain't zooming in over there, bro. So stay right here. You ain't going nowhere, like a dog. The ego, like an uncontrolled dog, wants to run here and there. So you just put that leash on. You ain't going nowhere. Or sometimes like you see in the airports, these parents put their kids on leashes. My mom, she also had us on a leash, but it was invisible. It just involved a glance, and and she had us in check. And then we knew we could only go this far. We couldn't go a certain distance. So the Prabhu, he has his ego and mind and sense on a leash. The senses and the mind and the ego, they want to zoom in on some enjoyment or zoom in on some suffering also. That's just another way we try to enjoy. We try to enjoy by suffering. That's very interesting. So we try to zoom in. But the Prabhu, he grabs, no, you ain't going over there, bro. That's suffering. No, we ain't going over there. That's enjoyment, but that's going to lead to suffering because we're going to like it. Then we're going to get attached. And then the attachment's going to be ripped away from it. Then we're going to suffer. So no, I'm going to stay right here on the right path. It does not create this identity. So how's the activities happening in this world? Swabhavas tu pravartate. They take place by swabhava. And the word swabhava means impressions. So you have this body, and all the bodies have fixed in them certain impressions. I always say there's just like, you know how to act like a dog. Not just because you've seen a dog, but because you've actually been in a dog body before. And in the dog body, you've cultivated many dog impressions. And so all those impressions actually exist inside the mind. And in a case of severe psychosis, you might have like a human body, but dog scars get triggered. And you become transspeciesism. That's like actually a thing. But like actually did not a documentary, but like a little video about a girl who identified as a cat. I was like, the mind, boy, so dangerous. So you all of us have these impressions fixed in our bodies. So even the way your present mentality also is just due to various impressions being activated. So the karma yogi, he knows that all this movement that's taking place in the material world is taking place by impressions. It's just the impressions that move us to act in a certain way, to respond in a certain way. Just like you see some people, for example, may get bullied. And some person has the way the impressions exist in his body, he cowers away and he's scared. Another person, the way their impressions are, they feel inspired to fight when they get bullied. A different thing, different impressions. So all these impressions are fixed in the body. And these impressions cause us to move this way or that way. Krishna has also talked about this in Gita 7:27, very nice verse. So when the karma yogi is observing everything happening in the world with his own body and with the bodies of others, he just sees that there are impressions that are being triggered and causing the interaction. And he's not investing so much importance in them. as such. This is his enlightenment. Why he said it to me? Because he got some impression, got triggered. So just like I always say this, when someone says something mean to you, they actually don't mean it personally. Because in order for them to mean it personally, they have to know you as a person. But if they don't know the soul, they can't know you personally. They don't know themselves also. This is like a philosophical way of thinking about it. So whatever someone says to you, even a glorification that's not grounded in spiritual wisdom is not personal. So someone may glorify you, and it seems very nice. We smile, of course. We appreciate that. It's very nice. And then the same person can write like a really nasty article about you because you did one thing that they didn't like. They just switched grounds just like that. Because neither their glorification was personal, neither their criticism is personal. It's just impressions. They're just being forced by impressions to act in a certain way. So the Karma Yogi, he kind of says that it's just impressions causing the movement of the souls. So then the next a hypothetical question comes up that, well, if the soul is just being moved by these impressions, who has forced these impressions upon them? It seems like the Supreme Lord has forced them because he's the source of everything. And he's caused the souls to take birth with different bodies having different impressions. So he is ultimately the cause of their suffering and enjoyment. Therefore, he is unfair. They've made criticism against God. He's not fair. He's causing someone to suffer in this way, another person to enjoy in this way. So Krishna answers that in 5:15. This is the last verse for today. Nadate kasya papam nachaiva sukritam vibhu. So vibhu means the Supreme Lord, the Master. He does not assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Na adhate. He never accepts that. Although the presence of the Supreme Lord allows for the operation of everything in this world. The example was given previously. It is just like rain coming down to the ground. So without the rain, the fruits or the seeds that have been planted cannot sprout up. But the type of fruit that sprouts up has nothing to do with the rain. It depends on the type of seed that was planted by us. If we plant a mango seed, then you get mango fruit. If you plant avocado seed, right? That's a fruit also. Then you get avocado fruit. Okay. If you plant a apple seeds, then you get apple fruits. You cannot blame the rain for the type of fruits that come, although the rain is critical in the process of it manifesting. So in a similar way, the Supreme Lord is the ground of all existence. So without him, nothing can be operational. But the experiences that we're having are not due to him, but rather due to the activities that we've cultivated in one life or another. So our blame on God has nothing to do with him, actually. So why do they blame God? So ajnana avritam jnanam. Their knowledge is covered by ignorance. They do not. Ajnana means ignorance. It means we are suffering from beginningless non-awareness of the reality. We don't know what is a tattva. So we just rely on our attachments and aversions in the mind. A nice saying that comes from Leonardo da Vinci, I always like this. He said, the greatest delusion that man suffer is from their own opinions. The raga and dvesha in their mind. I think it's this, I think it's that. Well, my opinion like this. So because of all that ajnana, you're blaming this one or that one, and ultimately blame God also. Just like I always say, when anything goes down and anything wrong happens, the first thing I do is find out whose fault it is. The first thing. So there's something that happens, okay, who did it? Whose fault is it? It never occurs to me that I can have anything to do with the process of my own unhappiness. It's always someone else's fault. It's always the environment's fault. So this is called as ajnana, ignorance. This is called as ajnana means ignorance. This is called as ignorance. Yeah, this is a good mantra. Because it's actually empowering when you understand that it's not the environment that is the cause of my own unhappiness, but it's my own self or my own uncontrolled mind, senses, intelligence, ego. I have lost sovereignty over them. So if I can gain sovereignty over my mind, senses, ego, then I can actually control my state of being. So you come to that conclusion that actually I'm suffering because it's my fault. And although prima facie that sounds like negative, that's actually a very empowering statement, because it's my fault that I'm suffering. It's also within my hands to change my destiny. So it's a very empowering statement. But unfortunately, the living entities are covered by ignorance. Tena muhyanti jantavaha. And the living entities are thus bewildered by that ignorance. So they go on blaming. Who to blame, who to blame, who to blame. Finally, in the whole blaming process, you're still unhappy. Even if you finally give all the right arguments why it's someone else's fault, finally, are you happy now? No, it's still not happy. So what is the value of that also? You're like, it's his fault. Here are all my arguments. It's like, congratulations. Now you are happy? No! There's no happiness in that. So the only happiness comes by taking responsibility of your kingdom. Your body, your mind, your senses, your intelligence, your ego. You have to assume full responsibility of that and become the master. And cultivate detachment. Then you can be happy. Otherwise, you'll go on with the cycle of suffering. Sometimes a little bit of enjoyment. Actually, there's all suffering. And what we call enjoyment is the decrease of suffering. When it decreases, you say, this is happy. Just like when they have this down, the kings, one torture they would use was to submerge your face in water. And right when you were about to lose breath, they would bring you out of the water. So that is what you call as happiness. Mostly it's like, I'm happy. So much illusion, and then back up. So this material existence like this, but it doesn't have to be that way. If we learn how to live in the body with detachment, they actually can be happy all the time. Brahma Bhuta, Prasanna Atma. Krishna says for the self-realized person, Prasanna Atma, he all the time happy. Jolly at every moment. Some disaster is happening, he also jolly that time. Because his happiness is not depending on anything external. So this is the encouragement. If you take it up seriously, because it's hard, the material nature is quite compelling after all. But for those of us who do hear this message, then our supreme happiness is available to us. I do have a questionnaire for you all to work on for 5 minutes or so in groups. Are there any questions before we do that? Anything you want to bring up? Was everything clear? I did the best I could. All new people. Yes. Swabhava.
Yeah, are they the same as samskaras?
Yeah, similar, yes. Swabhava refers to, you can say, Swabhava means like the nature of a body. So the nature of a cat is called the Swabhava, cat Swabhava. And the cat Swabhava has cat imprints inside of it. So there's a slight difference, but usually the two are used kind of like synonymously. So you have the Swabhava of a cat, the Swabhava of a woman, Swabhava of a man. And within that Swabhava, there are certain types of some scars that exist or imprints. But here is used synonymously.
How can we not be attached to samskara?
And then you have to practice karma yoga and context. You have to practice on a daily basis being free from duality. You can do simple practices to just train the mind to think in a different way. Like when the weather is oscillating, don't make comment about it. That's like a very simple practice of getting over duality. That when the weather is really bad, don't comment, oh, this is horrible weather. Duh. I'm also, seeing it directly. Why you comment on that? Or if the weather is very nice, this is beautiful weather. Duh. I'm also experiencing that. So by just not making comment about it, you can practice. This is a type of practice. Or you can practice, this is the hardest one, the one that I really, really, really have a hard time practicing, is if someone glorifies you, don't get carried away by that. Not that devotees, of course, we have a habit of appreciating each other. But if you get carried away by the glorification, then you'll also be carried away by the criticism when it comes, which it inevitably comes. So in this way, you can think of all sorts of dualities that you encounter on a regular basis. Just think of 5 sort of dualities that you encounter on a daily basis. Like not heavy ones, simple ones that you encounter on a daily basis. 5. I can name 5. Getting up in the morning and feeling tired or like this. Feeling good or not feeling good. That's one. Someone give me another one.
Crowded subway.
Crowded, oh, that's a great one. Crowded subway or not crowded subway. Okay, that's two. Give me some more. Three more. Huh? Oh my God, that's such a good one. Because when you get hungry, you get hangry, right? They have this thing. Yeah, when you don't eat, you turn ugly, isn't it? At least I get ugly. You like don't want to talk to nobody. You're like, what? You get like all sorts of attitude for no reason. That's a really good one. Hunger. What's another one? Two more.
You check it and come. The money didn't come.
Yeah, not getting that's a sensitive one. And one more. One more duality that we encounter on a regular basis. Someone say.
Like failure or success in work.
Failure or success in work. Okay. So here are 5 things. Now you practice during the week. You write these 5 down. You practice during the week. Just your mind will definitely oscillate, but you practice not making any comment about it. And if your mind is also saying something, you should say, "Calm down." Sure. Just practice it. You'll see it. It's very difficult. If you don't practice it, how it will come? We're hoping that by magic it will come up. No, you have to practice. You have to make the mind fit. Just like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym and just start bench pressing like 200 pounds. At least I don't. I start with 25 pounds. I'm like, I recently upgraded to 35 pounds. So you have to make the self fit. It happens gradually. So in the same way, you can make the mind fit. You practice it. Don't make comment about it. And the mind's comments, and you just say, be peaceful. Practice. Okay, so take 5 minutes. We're at our time, but just take 5 minutes to kind of go through these questions a little bit together, because it's just a nice activity to do. And then we'll just close out the class after that. You can pass them out. We usually break up into groups of 2 or 3 persons, and just 5 minutes a day because we're a little bit over time. And you just see how much of whatever you heard today has gone inside. And I'm going to drink my smoothie. Hare Krishna. Oh, the questions. I need to figure out a way to do this online. Hey. Yeah, starting from the section we always start from the section that you're covered.
Yeah.
So the second part.
Oh, okay.
Are you saying we should look at 8 through 15?
Yeah. There's a part that we discussed. You can double back.
That it's as if you actually have to do it.
So, but they're doing it really, and they just understand that body. They've already doing it. No, no. And like understand their bodies.
Yeah, right, like you're. Yeah. Yeah.
That's also sounds, so that actually the chemistry attached goes in the room. What goes on
Well, I might go, I don't want last time I was going. I'll go 1 year. No, when I go to retreat, I want to go to retreat next week. Just before. This is where Katie and I So I'd like to make up a retreat, and then go to Australia. So Indian focus enough. Yeah. I know. We're not be so fast. Nothing else going on that time. We're on financial. Yeah. How long is early bird?
What we're doing is yeah, we're looking to I like to but I was thinking about the days they used to try to say. Because also it's like it's still way like March, it's still March until June.
How many people do that?
We could bring 16 people, but like our ideal number is more like 12. As a result, I brought you guys to Mexico. Such a good number.
Yeah.
It's like not too much it's like we do that. But then because there's 12 people and I'm the only one who's coming in and it's right across the next house. So it's gonna be 12.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's
actually,
large.
maybe I don't the soul, right, has
Yeah, let me know if you need like payment plans for
the soul is on the side.
Well, I get a little bit late on the check.
It's not yeah. It's supposed to yeah, I was looking at prices from this is a cheaper version of it's cheaper. It's like to buy tonight, and then get yeah.
So at
It's a little bit better.
For me, when it comes to like.
I guess it just keeps on catalog. So the only thing that is going is some like intelligence, mind,
Sure.
and so
I saw you before.
actually,
Alright, y'all, hurry up on that side.
I saw you before this.
But leave the questionnaire over there. I want to use it in mine. I use it on message.
No. That was so funny. I saw that. I was like,
well, I mean,
Everyone has
Yeah.
that. Because they really want to say.
Oh, you're asking, yeah.
but I was like, what was that thing we said? It's so funny. So this is one of my favorite sayings. Yeah, I was like, I can't remember it. It was before hangry.
I love the Java one. Oh, the drowning and the.
No.
Oh. Yeah, watch this video.
Yeah, I forgot. Later, guys.